I wasn't the right one.
Yeah.
And because this one, I remember the picture with the courtyard, so that's why I don't know why. All right. Two courtyards, one behind the other. If the inner made an error, but the outer did not, the inner is permitted while the outer is prohibited. The outer, but not the inner. Both are prohibited. Each courtyard made its own error, and then each is individually permitted. Rabbi Akiva prohibits the outer because the rite of passage restricts it, but the Chachamim say the rite of passage does not restrict it. If one resident of the outer forgot to contribute to the error, the inner is permitted while the outer is prohibited. If one from the inner forgot, both are prohibited. If they place the Erev in one place and one resident of either the inner or the outer forgot to contribute to the Erev, both are prohibited. But if they were inhabited by individuals, they need not make an Erev. A window between two courtyards, if it is 4 by 4 fists within 10, they make two Erevim, or if they wish, they may make one Erev. Less than 4 by 4 or higher than 10, they may make two Erevim, but they may not make one Erev. Okay.
Okay. Um, Kotel shebein shtei chatzeros. Gavoa asrat v'rachav arba. Okay, so you've got once again you've got your two courtyards. Remember, each courtyard has got multiple houses around it. That's the important thing about it. Okay, and they're adjoining each other, but there's a wall between them. Okay, now this wall, if the wall is higher than 10 tfachim, now 10 tfachim is not that high. It's like the height of of the wall of your merpeset. Okay. So that they can see each other, they could theoretically pass things over the wall to each other, but because you have a full-on partition over there with no break in it, with no doorway, Arvin Shnaim ve'ein Arvin Echad, you have no choice. You have to make two separate Eruvin for one for the residents of this courtyard and one for the residents of that courtyard, and you cannot join them. Hayu Birosho. Okay. By the way, one of they mentioned over here that it's Rachav Arba'ah, the fact that it's 4 tefachim wide. Now that is actually it doesn't matter for a wall. It could be half a tefach thick if it's a wall. It doesn't matter how thick it is as long as as long as it's a wall. Why do they mention the 4 tefachim? Is for the next halacha that comes in is Hayu Birosho Peros. So let's say there was some food on top of the wall. Now, you're not going to have that on top of a narrow wall. And if it's a narrow wall that's less than 4 tefachim, then it's a makum patur. In the makum patur, you're allowed to put things on top and then take them down again, and even onto the other side. So you can use the makum patur as a way station in order to get things from one place to the other. But if it's 4 wide, and that's the point, that's why the Mishnah mentions in the beginning that it's 4 wide, is it's a separate rishus. So it's got its own
Uh,
of a different rishus. It's like a roof. You know, it's and elu olin mikan ve'ochlin ve'elu olin mikan ve'ochlin. So you're allowed to climb up and eat the produce that's over there. Ubilvat shelo yoridu lamata, but they're not allowed to take them between the two. Okay, as two separate rishus. Um, but nifrat hakosel. Now, what happens if the wall has a break in it? Ad eser amos. So if the break is up to 10 amos, then it's like a doorway. Ma'arvin shnaim. You still have the possibility of making two separate eruvin, but imratzu ma'arvin echad. But if you want, you can now have everyone joined into one big happy family eruv. Mipnei shehu kapesach. That's just like a doorway.
so it's the same as the window.
Exactly.
It's the same thing,
Exactly.
right?
That's what we have over here. Yosem Mikan, if the break in the wall is more than 10 amos, then that's not a doorway anymore. That's just not a wall.
Hmm.
Okay. Ma'arvin echad v'ein ma'arvin shnayim. Now you have no choice. You have to join everyone into one area because now it's one big happy courtyard with no division between it.
Okay.
Okay. Next case. Charetz shebein shtei chatzeros. Now, instead of a wall, we have a ditch between the two courtyards.
Mhm.
Okay. What's the qualification of a ditch? Amok asara, it's got to be 10 tefachim deep. Okay. Ve'rachav arba'a, and it has to be 4 tefachim wide because if it's less than 4 tefachim wide, then people will just step over it. Okay, it's not but now
Right.
4 tefachim is important to make it difficult for people to step across it. Okay. V'rachav arba, ma'arvin shnayim ve'ein ma'arvin echad. So that's effectively the same as a wall. It makes them two separate rishuyos that cannot be joined. Afilu male kash or tevin, even if they have been filled up with straw or stubble, those are straw and stubble are things that can be fed to the animals on Shabbos. And since
Oh,
they're considered impermanent, they're not gonna they're therefore they're not part of the structure, and we view them as if they're not there. Okay, so it's still two separate rishuyos. However, male afar otzoros, if somebody had dumped some sand or pebbles or whatever it is into the ditch, those things are considered permanent. There's nobody's moving them for anything. So now, if they've lessened the depth of the ditch to less than 10 tfachim, then it's now all one big rishus. Ma'arvin echad ve'ein ma'arvin shnayim. Then you're forced back into the position where you now have just one big courtyard with no ditch separating them, and you have to make a single eruv for all the residents. Mishnah Dalet continues the same case. Nasan alav neser shehu rachav arba'at tvachim. Now, what happens if you put a plank across the ditch? Now, if the plank has to be 4 tvachim wide, otherwise people are like a little hesitant about stepping over it because it's too narrow for comfort. Okay, so if as soon as the bridge is 4 tvachim wide, and you could have the same thing if you had two balconies, which are separate rishos, but you put a plank across so that you could walk between them. Ma'arvin shnayim, you can still make two separate eruvin because all you've got is a bridge. Ve'imratzu ma'arvin echad, but now it gives you the permission to make a single eruv for both courtyards, because you have a practical passage. Like same thing, it's the same halacha for a doorway or for a bridge. Okay, because now it makes it an optional thing to join them into one. Pachos mikan, however, if the bridge is narrower, ma'arvin shnayim ve'en ma'arvin echad. If it's too narrow, then you cannot join them into one eruv. Okay, fairly simple mishnayos for today.
okay. Dalet Ches. If he does not know or he is not versed with the law, he said, my Sabbath dwelling place is at my location. His location acquires 2,000 cubits for him in every direction. In a circle, these are the words of Rabbi Canaan ben Tiganos. But the sages say in a square, like a square board, so that it may gain the corners. This is what they have said. The poor man may make an error with his feet. Reb Meir says we can apply this only to a poor man. Reb Yehuda says both a poor man and a rich man. They did not say. We may make an error with the bread, except to make it easier for the rich man, so that he may not go out and make an error with his feet. One who set out for a town on which they may make an error, but his friend turned him back, he may go. But all the townspeople are prohibited. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Reb Meir says whoever is able to make an error and does not is caught in between.
Okay,
What? That's it?
that's it.
No. Yeah, I thought it was one more. Okay.
Is caught in between. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Shabbos. Okay, Vav. Yud Gimel Vav. If a
Mhm.
deer entered a house and locked the door in front of it, he is liable. If two people lock the door, they're exempt. If one person alone could not lock the door and two locked it, they are both liable. Reb Shimon, however, exempts them. If one person sat in the doorway but did not fully block it, and then a second person sat down and blocked it, the second one is liable. The first person sat in the doorway and blocked it completely, but the second person came and sat down alongside him, even though the first person stood up and went away. The first person is liable and the second person is exempt. To what is this case analogous? To one who locks his house to safeguard it, and deer is found to be guarded therein. The eight Shvatim mentioned the Torah. One who traps them and one who bruises them is liable. But other vermin and crawling things, one who bruises them is exempt. One who traps them because he needs them is liable, but if he does not need them, he is exempt. Beasts and birds are there in one's domain. One who traps them is exempt, and the one who bruises them is liable.
Okay. Masters.
And we have Gimel Dalad. I want Gimel Dalad.
Hey.
Gimel Base. Gimel
Hey.
Base, right? Hey? Oh, yeah, I'm
Hey, yes.
You're right. What courtyard renders liable to my Spirit of Ishmael says a Tyrian yard where goods are under guard. Rebbe Kiva says any which a person opens and the other closes is exempt. The Nehemiah says anywhere a person is not shy to eat renders liable. Rabbi Yossi says anywhere where a person enters and no one says to him, "What do you seek?" is exempt. Rabbi Yehuda says if there are two courtyards, one within the other, the inner one is liable and the outer one is exempt. Roofs are exempt even when they belong to a courtyard, which is liable. A doorway, portico, balcony count as a courtyard. If it is liable, they are liable, and if it is exempt, they are exempt. Cone-shaped huts, watch huts, and summer huts are exempt. Gennesaret hut, even if there are a handmill and a poultry in it, is exempt. A potter's hut, the inner hut is liable, but the outer one is exempt. Yossi says whatever does not serve as a summer dwelling and as a winter dwelling is exempt, and a festival tabernacle on the festival. Rabbi Yehuda declares it liable, but the common declare it exempt. Okay.
Okay.
And onto Mikvos. Okay. Yud Hey. All handles of utensils that are too long and will be cut short need only be immersed up to the prescribed length. Rabbi Yehuda says only if it is completely immersed. The prescribed length for the chain of a large bucket is 4 handbreadths. For the chain of a small bucket is 10 handbreadths. They need be immersed only up to these prescribed lengths. Reb Tarfon says only if the link is completely immersed. A string tied to a basket is not considered a combination unless it is sewn on. But Shabbos says we may not immerse hot water and cold water, or cold water and hot water, or clean water and foul water, or foul water and clean water. And Beis Hillel says we may so immerse them. If one immersed a vessel that is filled with liquid, it is as though it was not immersed. But if it was filled with urine, it is regarded as water. If it was filled with purification water, it is not cleansed unless the water of the mikveh is more than the purification water. Rabbi Yossi says even if a vessel of a capacity of a quart contains only one revius of these liquids, it is as though it was not immersed. All foods can combine to make up the amount of half a process that qualifies a person. All liquids can combine to make up the amount of a revius that disqualifies a person. This is the stringency in the case of drinking tummy liquids over the case of a mikvah. They made other liquids the same as water. Okay. We're going to be finished
Tomorrow
with
we finish it and move on to Nida.
Nida. Okay. Cool. Test hay. A marrow bone of a corpse or a marrow bone of a sacrificial lamb, if one touches them, either closed or punctured his tummy. A marrow bone of a nevela or a marrow bone of a sheretz, if one touches them when they are closed, he is tahor. If they are punctured at all, they convey tumor through contact. How do we know that the same applies to carrying? Because Scripture states, he who touches and he who carries. Whatever comes within the scope of tumor through contact comes within the scope of tumor through carrying. Whatever does not come within the scope of tumor, though, tumor through contact does not come within the scope of tumor through carrying. The egg of a sheretz in which an embryo has been formed is tahor. If it has been punctured even slightly, it's tameh. A mouse that is half flesh and half earth, if one touches the flesh, he is tameh. If he touches the earth, he is tahor. And Rabbi Yehuda says, even if he touches the earth opposite the flesh, he is tameh. The flesh and the living flesh that dangle on an animal convey the tumor of foods in their plates, but require preparation. If the animal is slaughtered, they become prepared through its blood. These are the words of Rebbe Meir. Rabbi Shimon says they do not become prepared. If the animal dies, the flesh requires preparation. The limb conveys tumor as the limb of a live creature, but it does not convey tumor as a limb of an avela. These are the words of Rebbe Meir, but Rabbi Shimon declares it tahor.
Right. And finally, Sota.
This is hey. On that day, Yeshua ben Harkanos expounded, Yoav served the Holy One. Blessed is he, only out of love, as it is stated, even should he kill me, yet I will put my trust in him. But still the matter is in doubt. Does the verse mean I will trust in him or I will not trust in him? Learn from what is said. Till I perish, I will not describe my perfect faith. This shows that he acted out of love. And Yeshua says, who will remove the dust from your eyes? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, for you expounded all your life that Yoav served the mighty only out of fear, as it is said, a man who is wholesome and upright, God-fearing, and who shuns evil, but has not Yeshua, your disciples show that he acted out of love. One who warned his wife that she went into seclusion, even if he heard it from a passing bird, he must divorce her and pay her the marriage contract. These are the words of Rebbe Eliezer, but Rebbe Shua says not until the woman who spins thread by moonlight gossip about her. There was single witness to testify that I saw her become defiled. She did not drink. Moreover, even a slave and even a female slave are believed to qualify her for receiving payment for a marriage contract. Her mother-in-law's daughter, a co-wife, a co-husband's brother's wife, or a husband's daughter are all believed, not on whether to disqualify her from receiving payment for a marriage contract, but only that she not drink.
Yeah, because those are the conflicted relationships who they are suspected of wanting to make her lose her kasuba.
Right.
So for them, they specifically say, okay, if you're going to testify, she's not going to lose her kasuba, but at least she won't be forced to drink. Okay.
Quick question before we go.